however you call it, is like the idea is you need some kind of replacement of Swing or JavaFX. Who is a Java coder? Oh, very good. Who doesn't like JavaScript? Yeah, this was me 5 years ago, and now I really like it, and I'll show you why. Because the more we wait, the more JavaScript becomes like Java. This is the good thing. So now the more, yeah, really, at the beginning, everyone hated Java, and they wanted to use JavaScript to be different. And now the longer we wait, the more we get. And they are so similar that I always make, the fat arrow and thin arrow always the mistakes. It's very, very similar. So I got already good questions before the show, and they asked me, why I'm doing this. Usually I spend lots of my time, I would say, now it shifts a little bit, but 2 years ago, 80% of my time on the server, and we had something to offer on the client. So we use a lot. I actually did a lot of JSF, still doing this, and it's still great technology. If you can live with the components and not forking the components, it's just using as they are, perfect. And we use a lot of JavaFX and Swing, but the problem with JavaFX and Swing, Oracle said there is no more official support. It's like a paper. And the problem is big companies became nervous what they can do. And of course, I could keep using JavaFX and Swing, but then you are depending somehow on the JavaFX and Swing community. And what is the alternative? I also have to show the alternative. And in my opinion, the alternative is not to use a framework, because if you use a wrong framework, you will have to recode the application every 2 years. And this is not what enterprise clients are accustomed to. And the next problem I have, I am a Java EE developer. I never had to relearn my skills. I had to just add stuff to what I know, and I try not to forget things. This is actually the challenge of Java developers. Don't forget the old stuff. I relearn things. So now in web, if you look at the landscape, it's crazy. Why crazy? So Angular 1, you probably know, I really liked Angular 1. Angular 2 is a completely different framework. So it's like you would say, we have J2E and Java have nothing in common. So this is like, it is even not true in this particular case, because behind the scenes is very similar. If you take a look at React and Angular, they are not similar at all. And Ember.js and the others also not similar. So what it means is you will actually spend a lot of time with a framework. You invest your time to a framework, and after 2 years, you will have to relearn to find out that another framework is coming. And then if you become a master of JavaScript, what can happen is then someone decides in your company to learn Elm, which is actually not JavaScript, but even hotter than the other frameworks. Right? And then WebAssembly can come or whatever. So my approach was always to look at the standard, learn the standard, and then use something else if standard is not enough. Thankfully, we have such a standard in web, and this is called the web platform. This is actually what browser provides you. And the really cool situation we have right now, the platform becomes more and more popular and more powerful. And what's also great is we have something like JCP. You know what JCP was, Java Community Process? This is the W3C, which is hard to read and a little bit formal and long. This is the World Wide Web Consortium. But what we also have is MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. And this Mozilla Developer Network does not stand anymore for Mozilla Developer Network because Google and all the others committed that this is the single point of truth. And what I do in my development, I just look up an MDN, and this for me as a Java developer is not that different to Javadoc. So now my current day as a web developer is not like I have to learn 5 frameworks and read 5 books. I have one site, which is, by the way, also offline capable. There's devdocs.io. You can load all the APIs to your browser and just use it. And the cool story is I helped several teams to transform from hardcore Java EE developer to web developer. And I showed them what I'm doing and the MDN approach, and they really like that, so which is a very good sign. And even better, I will show you towards the end, remind me this, service workers, which so in web they say this is black magic, no one understands that, but for a Java EE developer, I can explain service workers into sentences so that we know magic, because we already have something similar in Java. But it's like black magic for a jQuery developer if they only know jQuery. By the way, jQuery is dead. Who killed jQuery? Web standards. Any questions so far? So, no questions? So, I still like Java, and I really like the modern JavaScript. I started like it with ES6 2015, so 3 years ago, and now ES 2015 is, or ES6 is available in all browsers. And the strange thing is, Internet Explorer, or not Explorer, the Edge, Chrome, and Safari is like the new Internet Explorer, is the slowest with adoption. And Firefox is catching up with completely new render engine, Quantum render engine. And they are catching up. So what it means is my mode is, what we do right now is I don't use any frameworks. I just use some libraries from time to time, small libraries, if we need a decent table, for instance, right? Or, and what we do instead is, on demand, we use polyfills. So for Java developers, what a polyfill is, you don't have something like polyfill in Java, because what polyfill does is it patches the browser with not existing standard APIs. And the cool story is, over time, our applications becoming leaner and leaner because we can disable the polyfills. Agreed? Now, and what also happened in the last 2 years is, with very lucky accident, at least in Germany and Europe, big enterprise companies started to set the Chrome browser as the default browser. So the cool story is, in most of my project, what I show you today, we don't even have an NPM build. So they were surprised, where is my pipeline? So we don't need any pipeline, because the Chrome understands everything out of the box, so there is no transpilation, nothing. It's crazy fast. It's as fast like it was 20 years ago. So just, then you see all the changes in the browser. So this is actually, and I'm pretty sure that, I don't know whether you're aware of Angular. I think no one here really understands what Angular is doing behind the scenes. I think this is fair to say. With all the templates pre-compilation and pre-caching, and what is also not self-evident, that the developer mode in Angular is not this what happens after the build, and this is a lot of black magic going on, and the complexity is much higher than what the application server is doing. So I think we could explain in half a day what the application server is really doing. I don't think it's possible with a modern web framework right now. Okay? Now the question to you: who knows Angular 2? I will, okay, more than half. I would like to have one button on the page and create with Angular CLI an application. How many JavaScript files are in node modules downloaded to have one button on the page? I know it, because for a funny reason. But how many? Number. Tell me a number. We don't have time. 140? Between 25,000 and 32,000. Now the question is why I can know this, because this is no kidding, my backup stopped working. It's like, this is impossible. It works for years. Why that? And the problem was just I had a couple of Angular projects, and the node module was replicated, and there were lots of many small files, and the backup took whole night. So I measured that it's impossible. So imagine, I will show you in my earlier talk, we do a Java E microservice, and for my REST path, we only have to download 32,000 Java files. You will walk out and say, I am crazy, right? What I know is that Glassfish back then, before refactoring, was about 60,000 Java files, everything, because I downloaded it from the internet, and there was some limitation with 65,000. This was the Glassfish V2 after, before refactoring. It's a whole application server, and now we have for one button 32,000. The question is, in the development of your projects, do you really believe that nothing will change? And how long Google will support Angular? So we had Google Reader, we had Google Wave, and we had GWT and everything else, right? So just take out the history. So that's interesting. Now, let's start with hacking. So there's any slides there? There's some, if you have questions, AirHacksTV and the podcast, I interviewed the last podcast, interesting, Josh Marinacci. Josh is Java champion, was several times at Java One, and was a swing hacker, now does web standards. So we had a chat about this. It was interesting if you're interested in VRXR in web. And this is actually based on the training. So if you are interested, there is an online training, and the sources are on GitHub right now. And because we have no time, the code, exactly. And these are the dates for the workshop. Someone asked me, so there are the dates. So this is on my website. So now, no time, so go here. And Set up web standards projects, and we had, it does not matter, we have no time to build a reasonable application, but I would like to do the flights thing. And the flight already exists because we did then do something else, set up web standards projects, and it's called coffee, because we have lots of coffee here, so I would like to do this. And where is my, yeah, this is the editor, and what I usually do, I just split the screen. This is Visual Studio Code. It's a free one. It's the best editor you can get. Just download it. All the JavaScript hackers also using Visual Studio Code. And the cool story is I don't even think I have plugins installed. It works. This is like the NetBeans experience. Just download this, and it just works. So it comes from Microsoft. For me, Microsoft now is like the new, like Sun was before. So completely different company than 10 years ago. So nothing wrong with Microsoft right now. So we have the app.js. We have the style. And everything is empty. Now, the first, what developers are afraid of is like layout. So how to do layout is like crazy. Even the t-shirt, like CSS is great, and this great is outside the box, like to show that it is broken, right? So now, we are Java developers, and we like structure. And the cool story is HTML5 also likes structure. This is what I showed you. This is the first step, which never happens in my project. What I see is Angular 2 project, which are reviewed, have like millions of divs, without any reason, so that no one recognizes what actually is going on, div of div, 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 and lots of CSS IDs, and the other day no one knows what's going on. This is what I see. If you see something different, tell me. So I have main, and under the main, I would like to have a header and nav and article and footer. And yeah, and it's done. So this is like header. This would be the navigation and content and copyright. Okay, cool. Now I need a little bit more CSS. And by the way, as you can see, there's, okay, why it is reloaded here. I'm using a tool, it's called, actually I have internet now, and you not, because I have a cable. Now I was smart. And this is called browser sync. And the browser sync is like a single binary, and it watches my folder and refreshes the browser. This browser sync is incorporated in most CLIs. This is the only tool I usually use. I don't have to use it. I could just refresh the button, click the refresh button, but this is just nicer. And if you have WebSockets, don't use WebSockets. Service workers don't use browser sync, because browser sync refreshes the page asynchronously, and you get strange error messages. So just, you know. Questions? Ask me, right? So we have this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm usually working. I'm not a speaker. And I have one folder called junk. And in the junk folder, all my speeches go to junk folder. And in the airplane back, I'm deleting the junk folder. So this for me means junk means like doesn't mean anything. It's just what I showed at the conference, and afterwards it should be deleted.
In that case, I'm not clear what the command was that you executed to generate that code. If it's not important.
The command. Okay, the junk was like the folder. So forget the junk. And what I did with the command, what it just did, make dir coffee, copied 3 files, and this was. So this was nothing, like this I skipped that, because if you look at this, and this opens the Visual Studio Code. So it's really, forget it. So it's just lazy, so I try to automate things. And junk is just my convention of a configuration. So I can always safely delete junk, and none of my customers has problem with it, right? So now I have this, and style. Yeah, now, what I can do, I could just header. What I have to do is to show you light blue. And by the way, what I learned is by accident, if you just use the light variant, it looks great. So footer. So this is background, whatever light you find, just use it. Footer, what we had, article. And there are like crazy lights, like light like this. Yellow. Article and nav. light sea green. Wonderful. Now, yeah.
So the same logic applies to CSS frameworks, right?
Yeah, they are basically dead first. You don't need them. This is actually what I showed you. So you don't need any CSS grid frameworks anymore. If you are a Java developer and you know grid layout, everything else, forget it. Yeah. So I don't use anything. I would just use web standards in my talk. Display is going grid. This is what and by the way, grid was adopted in 1 year in all major browsers. Crazy how fast it was. So now we have display grid. It is activated. And what I would like to do is say the height, it should be full page. The height is to 100 of the viewport height. And the width is 100%. And now it looks more or less like an app. The problem is I don't like this, and this is like, I don't know why it is, but what you have to do is say body and margin 0 pixel. And now it will look reasonable. So we always have, always a PWA, right? We could already sell it on the App Store and become almost millionaires. Yeah, it will run everywhere and nice fonts and stuff like this. Now, the cool story is we don't have the time. So what I will do right now, so we have more time, I play with it a little bit. I show you the end result. So header, I just name it properly. Grid area footer and grid area article and grid area nav. I just use it by convention. Usually you should use even better names. And then in the main, I can say grid template areas and say, OK, now the cool stuff. I would like to have header, 2-column layout. And then we have nav and article, which is going to be content. And then we have footer. And now it looks like this. And now I'd say, no, the nav should go down. Then I do this, and this is the nav. And if I'm not satisfied, footer, then I can say grid template columns, and I can say the first is 1 fraction unit, and the next are 2 fraction unit, or use percent, and this is 2, and this could be, for instance, also 4. So this is 4, and I'm playing with it, and all Java developers are delighted. So this is easy, cool, right? So if you compare it with Bootstrap, Zarp, Foundation, or whatever, it downloads tons of CSS and JavaScript, lots of animations, and you don't even need a fraction of it. Now, this is a very Javaistic experience. So really, it's exactly what I do on the back end. I can do the same in the front end right now. So now, I might make it a little bit responsive. I can say media screen, and it could be even media projector. There is a media projector, but I don't like to try it right now. So, and this is, let's say, max width, and go straight with, let's say, 20 EMs, and 1 EM is the standard font size, which is 16 pixel, I think. It does not really matter. It is relative. So you shouldn't use pixels. You use EMs, rems, which are roots, or fraction units, but pixel, there's no more pixels in the internet, right? Because every device has different resolution. So, and what I can do right now, I can say, OK, here. So media screen, and why it doesn't work? Because it does. So if I switch to here, you see already that the breakpoint 20 M. So I could switch to 40 to make it a little bit larger. So now it's 40. And now I would just copy this and say here min width 40, and do something else. Let's say this is min. OK, this is max. It means this would be a smaller device. Then what I would like to do is to have 2 articles here and the nav, let's say, on the bottom. So, and now, if I switch this to here, you see nav on the bottom, on the side, bottom side. So this is actually first progressive web app, and I think every Java developer knows what's going on. And it is not pretty now. I'm not a designer, but I'm understanding what's going on. The cool story is I use semantic markup. So now my screen reader is working because it identifies that nav is a nav, and not like diff with ARIA roles that the diff is actually a nav, which is crazy for Java developers. It works out of the box. Agreed? So this is about layout. I would say this kills all grid frameworks, right? At least in my opinion. And yeah, okay. And I'm coaching a startup right now, and they need like visual layout guidelines. What to use? Material.io is like Google style sheet framework, and we use the web edition, so you can partially use the components. So you don't have to use everything. We just use the button from Material.io or the text field and so forth. Any questions about that? No? Yeah, and the last thing is less and SAS and so forth. Why less and SAS are used? What is the killer use case of less and SAS? This is CSS preprocessor. Why are you using this? Because of what? Inheritance? Yeah. Really? So actually, in my project, what I saw, avoid copy paste. They would like to have variables. So like you have the Oracle code, which is the color actually red or blue. So now let's do this. So I can say, now I would like to have code 1 blue, and this is, of course, light blue. So this is, and now I can go here and say this, this light coral is var, and this is CSS variables, and this is now, what was it? Actually, code 1 got, and let's say default is light, no, let's say red. So now, if I misspell this, it falls back to default, and now with that, it has the same color. So I could just take this, and I have one color for everything, and this kills less and SAS. At least 80% of my less and SAS appliances. Called CSS properties, a standard. It's not available in all browsers. Some do not support. Chrome does. But there is a next CSS is called. It's like polyfilthy CSS. So you can use the pipeline now and then disable that. So what's important that you use the standard syntax right now. And if all browsers will support it, which will happen sooner or later, you can just disable your polyfill. So now everything is blue, which is not that great. But now I can say here, I would like to have it yellow. And hopefully everything is yellow. I forgot the header, but you see my point, right? So, and we use CSS properties to style custom web components, because now we can have a component with default. By the way, it is not limited to colors. You can use font, size, whatever you like. This is like just a variable. It doesn't have to be a color. Any questions about that? So we already killed a lot. CSS grid frameworks, less and SAS is killed for most use cases, my use cases in enterprise projects. Cool? I have still 3 files, no transpilation, no Webpack, no gulp, nothing, just browser sync.
Sorry, you said that grid is available on all browsers now?
What? Grid? Yes. Yeah, except Internet Explorer 6 and.
What about Flex?
Flex is one before. So Flex took longer, and it was like Flex is, okay, what's different between Flex and Grid? Flex is just one dimension, and Grid is 2 dimensions. And Grid came later, but the adoption was faster. Very good. And what also changed for you, this is important information, all browsers now, relevant browsers, are evergreen browsers. There are no more version numbers. So what it means is this saved actually us, because we just can rely that all browsers gets automatically updated, except at code 1, because there is no internet here, but outside the building, they are going to be updated, right? So.
If you have repeated code in your media block, can you inherit that from a single definition and just have a layout?
Yeah, what you could do, you could have, this is what I didn't want it to do right now, is to have a main with the subset, and then 2 mains with the diffs. It works. You would define the one first, like with the height, width, display, grid template, and so forth. And the grid template areas have 2 in the media queries. And what you can also do is you can load even completely dependent style sheet depending on the media query. So you can have 2 style sheets, one common one and 2 different one. But I just give you an idea what's already there, right? Okay, cool. Now, how much time do we have? You know it? Oh, then we need a new component, and I will start with web components. So we have no time to do the introduction. So start with the mission impossible. Code 1 extends HTML element. What I would like to do is I would like to create my own element to structure the application. So what we do in my project, we use custom elements to create to structure the applications in terms of navigation, content area, footer, and so forth. And then if we have a table or grid, we have table with rows, lines, and stuff like that. And Java developers really like that. And I show you now not the very recent syntax, because the very recent stuff even has private attributes. It's like this should run in all browsers. And Internet Edge announced 3 weeks ago they are working on the standards right now, and there are polyfills available. But it will even be available in Edge soon. Okay. Now for Java developers, the biggest difference is we have a constructor here, and not the name. So this is like constructor. This is the name of constructor. Why this? Because there is no parameter overloading in JavaScript. There can be only one constructor. That's the name why the constructor is constructor. Just waiting for JS doc. This is the only constructor, right? So this will come in enterprise projects and a Java doc to tell that this constructor is the only one constructor. Okay. We have even super. And we have something from Java, post construct. You know what post construct is? Was renamed here to connected callback. Connected callback. The same semantics. You shouldn't initialize anything meaningful in constructor. You should do this in connected callback. Connected callback is called then when the web component is going to be hooked to the DOM tree. Okay? Now the cool story is we are HTML element. So what I know is I can say this is the HTML, inner HTML. And we have something cool with the backticks here in JavaScript. And what I can do right now, I can actually write here code. Let's say I do h2, hello code 1, h2. And nothing will happen, because what I will have to do is I will have to use the component actually. It's not used. But with the backticks, what I can also do, I can, for instance, say here this is the answer, and the answer is 42. By the way, this is like Java, except I don't have to declare the variable. I just declare and use it in once. So in constructor, it's just in the class. And then I can do something like, so this dot answer. And I can call here methods. I can do whatever like. It just works like a template, string template literal. I used it for a long time in Nashor in Java 8 for templating, for instance. Now we have this in AS 6. Questions about that? You understand the code right now, right? So the HTML element part of the DOM, I don't have the time to explain that, but this is like it is. Hey, by the way, even if you parsed XML in the early 2000s, you had to use the document, the DOM model. This is what in browser runs right now. So if you parse a lot of SOAP and stuff, you are now the browser expert, because we have, get element by ID and all the stuff we have. So there are two APIs. One was ported to Java, and browser is the C part of the same library, DOM. Okay, now there is a custom elements. This is a part of the API which comes with all browsers. Define, and now comes the trick. All custom elements have the dash, a minus sign, the dash in it. So I will call it code 1, and here code 1. So and now it's done. So code 1 is declared once, and I define my own HTML element, which can be used as it is in browser. So now I can go here, and with a little bit of luck, I can go here and say inside my article, I have here code 1, and hello code 1 undefined for unknown reasons. Yeah, answer. Now it's defined. So this is the simplest possible component. And what I can do, I would like to say, okay, but I would like to have an API here. Code 1 message should be enjoy. And because I know this is, and why I know, because if we usually, I would go here and say MDN. This is how you use search. Always MDN, otherwise the other strange site will come first. I forgot. VRXR schools or whatever. MDN is the source. MDN, and what I wanted to search is HTML element. And so go here. And this is actually you see the inheritance. And the cool story is they are working now on machine readable API. So we'll get JSON files, which can be included in editor. So we get great code completion soon. So it's really not that far what we know in Java. You know, there's this hierarchy, HTML element node, and event target. And if you know in one point in time all the methods, you will understand all the frameworks, because all the frameworks have also used the DOM elements. It's not like Angular is rendering something in the blue sky. They have to use the same HTML elements or DOMs. They really don't have to. They could use Canvas, but this would be terrible. So Canvas is like, it's like Swing 2D. We are Java developers. It's like, yeah. OK, now what I could do here, I can say it's nice. So let's try that. I could say here, just to show you that it actually works, this.get attribute. And the name of the attribute was message, I think. And is enjoy. So, and of course, there is an attribute listener. On each change of the attribute is called attribute changed listener with 3 parameters. I get before and after exactly what you know from Java. But this is the simplest possible web component I implemented. And there is some syntax which is not available with Java. We have getters and setters, real getters and setters. Let blank, so it looks like, I can show you this. Let's say this here. So what I could do, I can say set answer. This is A, and do this thing here, this, and they usually, I will have to call it this for now. There's a new syntax coming along. It's too early with an hash, which is going to be private. Right now, is this the proper way, or proper way, is the conventional way of doing this. A, at get answer, return this answer, and this should be underscore. And it should still work. As you can see, what happens here, this answer, because actually the get method. So I can do so this is exactly like what we wanted to have in Java, but we don't have it. And of course, you will have to document getters and setters in JavaScript as well as in Java. This is a getter, this is a setter, because it's hard to read, right? So this would be too efficient. OK, now questions about that? No. Sometimes you have to communicate with the server. Right? It's not that common. Usually, there are millions of reactive libraries and whatever you can imagine. So I can show you what you can do just with web standards and then see whether you need the libraries or not. So because browser sync is a web server, I would just misuse it to serve some JSON. So I would like to add message.json and say here, hello world. OK. Looks good. And now what I can do, I can say now here, fetch from server a method. And unfortunately, it looks like that. Message JSON. Then, so it's like future in Java. I can say response. I would like to have the JSON. And now I have the JSON. And now I can do something with it. I could say now, then, just to try it out, this is the JSON. And by the way, the fat arrow is like lambda in Java with the thin arrow. It's actually the same. Console log. And console log is like system out println. So we have it, and I only have to call it. So I call it here, this fetch from server. And let's see whether it worked. Hello world. And forget this. It's like I'm running a specific development mode. But yeah, you see hello world was fetched from server. Now you can say it's a little bit tedious with the callbacks. So what you can do, I can say now, OK, I got you. So async. And I can say, I would like to have await. And by the way, var is gone. Forget var, completely forbidden. Const and let behaves exactly like Java. So I can say const response, and now the another call is also asynchronous. Const JSON equals await response.json. It's exactly the same. Now I have thank you. Now I have here my JSON, and I could be and what I would like to have is the I would like to extract this from the from there. How to do this? I could actually say here, I would like to have the meaning of the hello and equals JSON. So what happens now behind the scenes is it creates on the fly a variable hello, and it looks at a key hello, pulls the value, and now with a little bit of luck, this hello should have the value of hello without any frameworks. This is called destructuring, and I think we already got it in Java 11, or it was planned to be included in Java in one point of time. So now this, let's see, console.log, hello. And this is world. So it worked. So it extracted from my JSON stream one variable, created on the fly. You see how easy it is. You won't believe how many frameworks I see just to talk to the server. So, and there's actually no excuses. Fetch is one function with lots of polyfills. Even if you use ancient Internet Explorer, you can just use the polyfill, which will behave somehow like this. And behind the scene, XHR is working for you. WebSockets, exactly as simple as this. Yeah?
Can fetch from server be done outside a class? I think you do it. It comes from the HTML element class.
No, this fetch is actually in the window or document. It's outside.
It is a built-in.
How it's called built-in is just like the browser API, like navigator, fetch, console.log. It does not come from the class. I could do it outside. So now, modules, right? So you can say, okay, in Java we had packages, and no one was excited about them. There's huge excitement in JavaScript community of modules. So this is a little bit, confusing for Java developers. Modules are exactly what we have called packages for 20 years. I show you a module. Now, we have the app.json, and what I would like to do is to create a hello service, because I don't like to put everything in one file. And this hello service is just class, and we have no time, I guess. So how much time do we have? You know it? Export, default. OK, class hello service without inheriting, so just a regular class. And I can actually say, doesn't matter, hello, return 10 mins. So we have this, and export default means, this is what I like. By the way, it doesn't work with Angular with export default. I don't know why, but you do try default and it will break. So export default, what it means is, it means there's the only one which is visible from outside, conventional. If I will skip the default, I will have to use the curly brackets, and there could be multiple exported things. I think it's a good convention just to export one thing. At least it works perfectly in my projects. So export default. So then I have to activate modules without frameworks. And this is not that hard as it seems. Type equals module. So modules are running in all browsers right now except Node.js. They're still discussing how they call them, but all browsers are supporting modules. Except Netscape Navigator, of course. So we have this, and what I would like to do is to use that. And the cool story is, this is out-of-the-box Visual Studio Code. What I could do is, I can say here now, this, what was it, hello, equals new hello service. Service. And now, sometimes, it does magic, not today. What it does is it recognizes, I forgot to save that. Export default. Yeah, but it is able to auto-import that. This is what I actually, I know why, because, no, I don't know why. So import hello service from, this happens usually automatically. Now it doesn't like to do this for me. Hello service JS. So and now we have, our modules, ES6 modules for all in the room. Just think of Java packages, and you are the module expert. But there is one thing which is not possible with Java. It's kind of a class loader. Is dynamic import. So there's an import statement, so you can on the fly import modules. When you need it, if you build a router, not a big deal. 10 lines of code, you have your own router. But for router, you would like to import dynamically something, because you have one router and you would like to pull, snippets on the go. Okay, so we have that, and I would like to invoke that, and to invoke that, yeah, I would just like to invoke that. And console.log, and this hello, what was it? Forgot. Hello is stupid. So 10 means world, so it worked. And what happens if you look at the network, it dynamically, is it visible? It will have two requests. One is for the hello service, one's for app.js, and then hello service on demand, because of the import initiates requests, which is a very good thing in HTTP 2 world. So if you have HTTP 2, the server can push in advance whatever the client needs, so we don't need the bundlers. It's pointless in HTTP 2. In HTTP 2, the client can open as many connections as client like to the server. It's a multiplex bidirectional connection. Okay, let's say you would really like to bundle the stuff. So there are two great tools. One is called Parcel.js, and the other one Rollup.js. What Rollup does, it will follow all the links. I can actually show what Rollup will do. I would just go to Coffee and try to find the initial. So Rollup app.js minus the, let's say, dist. Yeah, and I have to specify what, and I would like to specify the format, and I think this is for FESM is the modules. And what it did, it created somewhere, nowhere, wait a second. The problem is I always automate things in script, ESM, and like file.js, this is what will work. Cut file.js, and what you see is what Rollup does, it concatenates intelligently without any transpilation all the dependencies to one file if you don't have HTTP 2 and still works. And if you need transpilation, there's Rollup plugin, you can do this, but this is fully optional. Okay? Any questions? So there was a little bit of build. This is what I don't always do. So, but this what you see is what actually how my web clients are looking. So now let's start with the most complex thing you can possibly get is the complete offline capable application. So now with that, you can cover a lot. And there are there's also a problem with my templating, is a security risk. If I would use in a template like image, and the image URL will come from the server, and the server would be like not checked, not validated, the content, I could actually hack the client. So how to solve the problem? There's a small library called lit.html, and because I have internet, and you not, I can show you this. It's called lit.html, and the cool story is it comes with the polymer, and the better story is it can be used without polymer. So it just can be used inside a component. And what lit.html is, this is actually the cool part. So if you are using the backticks, I could event a function here and say the name of the function is like here, const Hugo equals, and let's say here, PABC is something. And I could use this here, the function, and there is and it will pass all the parameters here, and let's say I will return goodbye. You see goodbye? Can you see that? Goodbye. So I create my own template, standard template engine. So I prepended this Hugo to the string literal, and now I am able to do whatever like content sanitization and so forth. Now, lit.html and hyper-HTML are such functions. This is like a standard extension from JavaScript. So it means the dependency on this framework is very low. The lit HTML, the size of the complete lit HTML library is around 1,000 lines of code. So you could absolutely, in the worst case, you can still maintain it in your project. And the cool story is this is like this ES6 literals on steroids. They even support, promises inside the templates, for loops, so you have template language like React. And the cool story is, what they found out is all the problem with virtual DOM, so what Angular and React are doing, they are building in-memory model, and then the end of transactions, they are flushing the model to the store. It's very easy to explain to Java developers if they know JPA. It's exactly what happens behind the scenes. So now, in lit HTML, they find out they don't need the virtual DOM. They are smart with the templates, and they are crazy fast without consuming memory. So what happened by accident is if they find out that actually the lit HTML approach without framework is the fastest one. Questions? So now I think lit HTML, and this is just fun. If you take a look what it is, you can prepend the HTML, and the template will look exactly like my template, except it's safe and the content are escaped. So I couldn't hack the image tag, for instance. And it's very fast. It will be faster. For instance, if you have built a huge table, 10,000 lines, and just one cell would change. With my technique, the whole table would be re-rendered. With lit HTML, just that cell. Questions? Now let's talk a little bit about service workers. So now what service workers are is like executor service for Java developers, with access to a current hash map, which is typed with request and response. The service worker, you can never talk with service worker directly. It has to be installed. So it behaves like CDI event or message-driven bean. So they are just communicating via events. And there's a predefined set of events: install event, activate event, fetch event, and some other events which I forgot right now, but I will have to look up on MDN. I will find all the events. Everything is well documented. Now, what the interesting part is fetch event. So what it means is actually the service worker is also a proxy, like HTTP proxy, a reverse proxy. So everything flows through the service worker, and now we have no time, I guess. So we have 5 minutes or 3 minutes, or no time. 0 minutes, even better. So who cares about keynotes, right? Effective web training. This is the sample app from the online course I hacked, and this is called Stocks. And code is called Stocks Worker. So this is the whole code. And what I do, I'm listening to install event, fetch event, activate event, and message event. So what happens in install, I'm maintaining a list of files which I'm interested in. And in the install case, I say event, wait until prefetch. And in the prefetch somewhere, where is here prefetch? Here, prefetch. I'm using a hash map, caches open then, and so forth. So basically it's at all in hash map. And if I put the request into the hash map, the server will ask to receive to send all the assets, and they will store it in the browser cache first. So this is on start, but I can decide how much, when, and how far, right? So and now everything is in the cache. Then on the install event, so what this is prefetching, and on the fetch event, what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, if this is already in the cache, then return from the cache, otherwise go to the network. So I'm using the fetch. So what I'm able to do is to intercept all the fetch requests, my fetch requests and the browser requests. So with that, I'm completely offline. This was my problem in the previous talks because it cached everything and the demo didn't work. So I had to disable it right now. So this is why it didn't work in the morning. So I tried it caches everything, and this is the reason why it was installed. So, and now look at this. This is in the activate, and there is something like self-client's claim and activate. If you do this, now comes the cool part. the Chrome will install as an executable native library to a desktop machine or Android machine is like Electron app, replacement of Electron. And this is really great because you will end up having, on my machine, is in the applications folder, an application with the name stocks with a proper icon. And the only thing you have to do is to provide a manifest file, which is web manifest. This is this file, which is not that painful. This is not standardized yet, but is available to all major browsers. So with that, I hope you already saw in 45 minutes how far you can go without any frameworks. And this is my second mission. We are deleting all the web frameworks right now. And what I can tell you, you are the best developer because all the concepts you know for Java are applicable now for web. And service worker is not a big deal for us. Okay, there's a little bit craziness with then and so forth. But for our Java developers with JavaFX and Swing experience, now is, I think, the time for web standards. And we don't need, reactive library to talk to the backend. You could use this, but this is crazy. Like, fetch is just enough. WebSockets, well integrated. SSE events, well integrated. In one project with Swing and JavaFX, we struggled to get access to USB. There's a web USB, fully integrated with the browser. You get real-time peer-to-peer protocols. It's crazy what's possible right now. And I hope you saw that the modern JavaScript looks really like Java, right? So it's not like you said, it's crazy what I'm doing. I hope it was understandable. So if you know futures and completable futures, it's very applicable to JavaScript. Any questions? What? Routing is very simple if you think about it. What happens behind the routing is, I did in the workshop, this is recorded online, but the whole code is on GitHub, Effective Web. If you go to my GitHub account, you can get the stocks application. What I did, I have two components. One I call slot, and the other component listens to standard event called hash change event, standard. So if someone puts in browser, let's say login, route, or whatever, the event is thrown, and I'm receiving the event. Then I'm throwing my own custom event to everyone. And slot reacts to it and can replace one DOM element with the content, with import. Right? So I'm importing the stuff dynamically and replacing one DOM, and you are set. This is the router. The cool story is if you're not happy with that router, because we have web components, you can take the Polymer router. You can still use a commercial router. But this was that simple. And by the way, I have the router here. I can show you this because this is exactly the code. So I will just open in a new editor. And there will be enough. This is the router. That's all. This is 50 lines of code with even link highlighting. And the slot, this is a little bit more complicated. What I did at the end, there is like about view, add view, list view, and overview. This is like the end result was static routing, and I had it completely dynamically. Very simple with standard means, right? So, and I think for Java developers it's doable because we are accustomed to such a things. It's not like rocket science. And the cool story is, just for you, if you learn this, you won't really have to relearn it again in 10 years because the web standards cannot change. So they are stable for 20 years right now. So learn once, never migrate. If you learn a framework, you are good for 2 years, at most. Angular follows semantic versioning. So per definition can break every half a year. Yeah, this is an official statement. Minor breaking changes every half a year. No kidding, this is not a joke, this was like it is. This cannot break. Yeah. Oh, there's two great tools, Cypress.js and Test Cafe. Yeah, I have to go. Test Cafe and Cypress.js, and yeah, just look at them, forget Selenium. Thank you. And stickers.